Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy. It's Monday.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
October is breezing along here, and fall is here, and we're enjoying it. I know you're enjoying it. You got much colors yet? Is that happening, or?
So it's coming. I don't think we'll see what happens. I don't think it's not going to be quite as bright this year as it has been in the past. But we are seeing some pretty colors come through. We're also seeing some things kind of die off before they turn. So I'm hoping that's not going to be a trend this year. Little later for the brightness of colors than it normally has been. So that's interesting, but still pretty.
Yeah, we've had beautiful color here in Colorado, and because of the height, the elevation, it starts up in the mountains, which we've been at, and then it starts to move down the mountain to get to Denver. So it'll be another month or so of colors that we get to experience, because it just moves.
Right.
We get to see it all. And as we've been discussing,
I do love this time of year, though. It is one of my favorites. I like the crisp air. Yeah. I like feeling energized. I like having to grab a sweatshirt. I like being tempted to make a bonfire in the backyard. All of that is just fun.
Do you do your bonfire by your pool, or what do you do?
We do. Dan built a little fire pit out next to our pool that we'll do. And this time of the year too, we'll do outdoor movies. He set up a screen on the back of our house. Actually, I mean, it's nothing fancy by any stretch. We've got it up with, little push pins or something. But when it's cold out, I don't like to do it in warm weather. When it's chilly out, then we'll take all the Yogi Bows outside and set the screen up and do outdoor family nights and invite people over to hang out and make s'mores and watch movies. And it's just fun.
Oh, that's fun.
Feels like fall.
That's neat. We got a fire pit that we enjoy. We actually got two of them. We got one on our deck and on our patio, and then we have a pizza oven.
That's new this year, right? Didn't you guys just put that in this year?
Put that in, and
that's so fun.
We've had a good time with that. Making pizzas, making your own pizzas, and then cook them in this wood fired pizza oven. That the taste of it is just spectacular. So. The only time
never go out for pizza again once you have that, right?
The only time we can't use it is when it's super cold or super snowy. So other than that, in Colorado, even in the winter, we can go out and use it, because that's generally nice. So we do. And when it's cold and snowy, we just stay inside.
So you don't dig a path out to it then. So my hot tub, I use my hot tub all winter long. In fact, I won't touch it in the summer, but in the winter, I absolutely love it. Fall, I love it because I like the air to be cold and then be in it. But the first thing, when we get all the snow, the first path I dig is not the driveway. It is the path from my back door to the hot tub.
Yeah. In Colorado, we have a hot tub in the back. We don't have to dig a path, because even if it's snowing, we'll go out there, and if it's super deep, we would have a problem. But we'll go out there even when it's snowing. But a day or two later, it'll be melted.
Yeah. See, that doesn't happen here. Once it starts, it's there for the season.
Yeah. For us. So it's generally, it's a concrete, we have it on the concrete patio. So we just wait for it to melt. And even that's funny. Even our driveway, we have a guy that plows it, and he doesn't come out unless it's over 4 to 5 inches, because if it's less than that, it'll be gone in a couple hours.
That's amazing, right? That is not quite how it works in New Hampshire.
Yeah. It gets a little bit chillier there, and once it's cold, it's cold.
I love it, though. I love it.
Yeah, and we've been talking about God's will, and as we, kind of raised up and moving into this section of the how, and to practically how does this work, and we've talked about. Listen, watch, wait. It's very specific. process, go to unity. We talked about going to unity. And it's trusting, and this is something I try to help people understand. It's trusting that the burden and the leadership is God's, not mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that it's all based upon his power, might, knowledge, foresight, and ability to give insight and direction based upon what actually happens. And that's the piece that I've come to learn to appreciate more, and I hope others do as well, that when we think of God's will, there's a tendency to think, well, it's specific, it's absolute, and I better stay on it because he's going to make everything absolutely work. Well, as we're on the path, because there's a couple things going on. One, we're in a wicked world.
Right.
That is entropy, destruction. The enemy is there trying to thwart things, cause trouble. And so those things are going to happen as we're walking down the path. And then secondly, we're dealing with self-centered people that are reacting to us and doing things for us. And they may, like for example, they may not have integrity. And I'm going through this right now and this is kind of an illustration of God at work. The understanding that we have is that regardless of what happens and what is thrown at us, God will answer, direct, and get us to his beautiful place. So we do understand that, which that means we continue to pursue that.
Right.
Go after it. And I had a discussion a couple days ago about the issue of fruit. And it says to Timothy, Paul says to Timothy in 2 Timothy, pursue righteousness, godliness, love, peace. And then they said, well, I thought that was a fruit. So does that mean
good question? Yeah.
So does he's supposed to go get that? Well, I said the word pursue, I said you got to keep reading. And it says live out the life of God, follow God, the relationship with God, and it says follow what Christ did when he gave the great confession before Pilate. So I said, let me take you there. So I took him there. This is in John 18, and Jesus' confession was, come to the truth and hear my voice. And so it continues to say pursuing isn't you deciding on your own. It isn't you figuring things out. It isn't you developing your own peace or your own fruit, but rather following God, trusting that, well, he's going to provide the answer. Knowing that, well, this new interesting thing, happened, or this thing that I thought was right, isn't happening. So, give an example. We're having some repairs done. We have a greenhouse, and we're having some repairs done. And I think I've described that we had some problems with a guy that wasn't particularly honest. So we looked for another guy and found the other guy, and he said, "Yeah, I can do that. I got the talent. I got the people to do it. No problem." Well, that's been 3 weeks ago. And when are you coming out?
Right.
4 days. Okay. 4 days comes, doesn't, when are you coming out?
And probably no communication. That seems to be the running theme around here.
Exactly. Yeah. When are you coming out? Well, 4 days. Okay. Doesn't come, no communication. Okay. When are you coming out? Hey, come on. I need to get this done. And if you're not going to do it, I can get somebody else. I said, that's okay. I just need to know the truth.
Right.
Are you going to come or not? Because I can't let this go into deep winter because we need it and we need it fixed. No, I'll be out. Well, yesterday, I was supposed to be out. Doesn't show up. Well, all right, now I know something. First of all, he has no integrity, which is a little bit of a problem. Even do I want to trust him doing my work?
Right.
And then two, well, Father, something's wrong here. What would you have us do? what do you have to answer this? We need the greenhouse fixed, and we need somebody, and we understand in the activity level of these days, there's fewer people doing work, and they got a lot to do, and so getting into the queue is kind of important, and I do understand that. So he gave us the idea of a guy that actually had used a long time ago, but he lives up kind of in the mountains, so it's a long drive for him. So we were always thinking, well, probably not. So we pray, Linda and I pray, God, what is your answer? What is your will for this issue that now we see something else happening that isn't working? Something's wrong here. What do you have to say? And we're discussing, should we call this guy? And we're not sure. Linda's, well, I'm not sure. I don't want to bother him. I don't want to cause him trouble. And I'm sure he's busy. And let's keep praying. So we're praying. The guy calls me.
Oh, you're kidding. I love that.
And he says, hey, I've been thinking about you. And he's a believer. And he says, I have a couple key decisions that I'm trying to process to find God's will, and I need some assistance. Could you help me? And I said, okay, tell me about that. And I just listened, and I said, yeah, you're hearing a few things right, and I see where you're stuck. So why don't we get together, and I can process, because as we're talking about it, as you and I have been talking about it, my role isn't to tell him what to do.
Right.
It's to walk with him into God's will, which I know, and I can see already a few things he said, and I can see where he's stuck. And then I said, hey, by the way, I said, we were considering calling you. We got these things going on with this greenhouse, and we need somebody to repair it. Do you have any time? He said, actually, a week from now, I got a window where I had a job, but it canceled, and I got a window. Yeah, I can come and do it. And by the way, then when I'm there, then we can process together.
Oh, that's perfect.
So God said, here's my answer. And I know you were processing, Rich and Linda, what it is that I had in mind. And again, we don't try to pretend to know the how or try to put it into a system. It's, he said, if you ask me, I'll get you the answer. Yeah. And so we ask, and he could have said, call the guy.
Right.
That could have been the answer. Or don't call the guy, or I've got somebody else, or there's somebody else here. But he had that guy call me, and I hadn't talked to him. I hadn't probably talked to him in a year or so. Well, God says, do you see what I'm up to? And we talked about Cornelius and Peter, and God is working both sides of this deal.
Yep, absolutely.
Because he said, Rich, you're going to assist him, because I have some answers for him, and he's an answer for you. And I put that, do you see how I put that together? And it's like, yes, I do. Hallelujah.
Right.
What a joy this is. And even though I understood that I thought I had the right guy, but because of what happened, lack of integrity, not follow through, delay. Okay, well then, and that's what, remember he says, come to the truth. Well, the truth, wait a minute, something's not right here. What do you have to say? Well, yeah, you're here, you're understanding right. Let me show you something different. And I believe the reason for the delay was that this guy needed a little bit more time to get to his key questions.
Right.
And he wasn't, if I'd even been 3 weeks ago and said, okay, I want you to come, he might have come and never processed his will, because he hadn't processed it.
Right.
So it's really,
I love when we get to see so clearly. And sometimes we get the full picture like that of, oh, this is cool. I get to see what you were orchestrating, God. And other times we don't even know what all the behind the scenes were that he was doing. But when he gives us that glimpse, it is so powerful and such a good reminder to us of exactly what you're talking about, that he is working both sides of the equation and he's got the details. It's in the details.
It's in the details. Yeah. So as we consider this, and we talked about going to unity with a spouse, getting your inner circle involved with you. There's some specific scripture that talks about this, and then we can discuss it because it's kind of misunderstood. So we need to process this. So go to Proverbs 11:14 first of all. Let's read that one.
Sure.
Proverbs 11:14.
Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety.
Okay, so, and we'll talk as we put all this together, but when you have any, and he's using plural, so as you bring counselors, so now we're talking about moving beyond our immediate spouse, friend, maybe even close circle. He said, well, plural, bring counselors. In an abundance of those, there's safety. And when you think about our desire, we want to know God's will.
Right.
When we think of there's safety, what do you think he's referring to there, that as you process this, you will receive safety if you follow this process? What do you see as safety?
In that, I would picture safety is a place that is protected, where I'm walking in the kingdom, where even if it doesn't look like what I think it would look like, it is what he would look like, and he is going those steps before me. I think of like a father stepping before, clearing the path for you to come through.
Yeah, it's really that simple. That well, he said, remember, my will is delivered in the kingdom. The kingdom is a safe place.
Right.
It's where things happen. It's where you're protected. It's where I can overcome the things that you're experiencing in the other kingdom that you're also part of, which is the world. So he says, the counselor that you have around you, the counselors that you have around you are intended to help you stay in the kingdom.
That's good.
So that you can all hear my voice, and I'll lead you to the answer. Okay, go to Proverbs 19:20.
Listen to advice and accept instruction, that you may gain wisdom in the future.
Okay, so it says, listen to others who are going to walk with you, so that you can hear what? Instruction. And the question as we look at God's will is, what do you have to say, and what are your instructions to us of taking the steps? And so the focus a lot of times, which we'll talk about in a second, is as we are serving as that role or receiving it from somebody else or some other people, it's really focused around, well, what is God saying to you? What step has he asked you to take? What do you understand as the steps that he wants you to go next? Like this guy I'm talking about that called me and said, hey, I've got a few things. I talked a little bit about it. His question is, well, I know this and I know this, but I don't know where to go next. Okay, well, one, Rich, don't tell him. You don't need to tell him. I think you should. Rather, let's go hear God's instruction. God will tell him what to do next, where to go next. And I'll help frame it up and say, well, do you see, this is a step. I think I shared this, but we had a couple that's in Italy working on a big, beautiful promise of God that I'm going to give you a property to do retreats, and you're going to be used in a big way in Italy to give the way abiding. And so they were a little bit stuck. Partly is because there was so much. They were kind of, with all this, where do we go with all this?
Right.
We got this.
It can be overwhelming.
It was overwhelming. Yeah, good word.
Yeah.
So I actually said to him, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, or last Wednesday, sorry. Write it all down. What do you know? And they did, and they wrote down 3 pages. Well, we know this, we know this, we know this. And then the husband organized it into categories.
Right.
This thing, we know these things. We know these things. There are like 5 or 6 categories. And I said, send it to me. Okay, so they sent it to me. And so what I do is I'm going to assist in this area of instruction. Okay, Father, help me get perspective out of all these overwhelming things.
Right.
That they could go in all kinds of directions. Where should they go next? So I pray, and I hear this and this, 2 things. Just those 2 things. Everything else will come later, just these 2 things. So I go back to them and say, out of all these things, what I'm hearing is to process these 2 things. Now you and your spouse go and process that, get confirmation that that's the steps that God's instructing you in. And they used me as a counselor, not to tell them what I think they should do, but rather, here's what I'm hearing. You go confirm it, because you do need to know. And they ask, what step do we take next? Where do we spend our time following God? Okay, these things. Okay, then go to Proverbs 24:6. And this talks continued about our counselors and advisors. What does it say?
For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. So as you look at that, we get the privilege of, enjoying victory. Yeah, you're kind of in a battle because you're in a world that's a struggle. You got people around you that's a struggle. You got an enemy that's around you that's a struggle. And God's speaking, I'm going to give you the victory to get through all that, knowing that those things are coming, that those roadblocks are coming, that those delays are coming, that there's responses of what you thought was going to happen with this guy showing up. He's not showing up.
Right.
Well, why? Well, because he's got an issue with his own character, and he's got an enemy that's giving him deception to keep saying, yeah, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there. In a sense, really kind of knowing he's not coming for a while.
Right.
But he doesn't want to see from his perspective. He doesn't want to lose the job.
Right.
So he'll just keep stringing me along, because what other choice? Basically, he thinks, what other choice do you have? Though eventually I'll get there. And God says, no, I'll give you the victory over that. So he says that as you're processing my will, most of the time, and you and I know this, that you and your spouse are able to go to unity majority of the time.
Which is such a gift in confirmation.
It's such a gift, and that the 2 of you go to, remember, it's unity with the Spirit, not unity as a negotiation. He says, bring your inner circle into that if you can. He says, as you're still a little bit fuzzy, or you're a little bit stuck, or you need some assistance, bring in others. Okay, now let's talk about that. Here it's critical. Well, what kind of others do I bring in? Now, here's the problem, and this is why this is misunderstood. With the abundance of counselors, with advisors, I'll give you victory, I'll give you security. So people take that as, well, then I'll go get a bunch of friends, Christian friends, people at church, and I'll give to them, here's my issue, here's what I'm dealing with, here's my decision I'm trying to make. What do you think? Because in the abundance of counselors, well, then the focus is on the number. Let me go get a bunch.
Right. And you will get just as many answers.
Exactly. And I hear this a lot, is I went and asked a lot of people about this, Christian people, and they seemed like they're godly people. I got all kinds of different answers. Okay, I said, well, just think about what you just said. What did you get? Everything, all kinds of different answers. I said, are you clearer or less clear than when you started? I'm less clear. Do you understand that's not of God? But what do you mean? Well, what happened is that these people that you went to gave you their human, fleshly logic based on their experience.
Right.
Well, I've done, and what I think you should do is this. By the way, you and I have dealt with this in a way at this vaccine issue. Is that it's become a point of division.
Right.
Of, well, I believe I'm supposed to do it, so I want everybody
to believe what I believe.
And if anybody comes to me, I'm going to tell them you should. And by the way, if you don't, I've even heard this, if you don't to people, then you're not following God's will. So I said, well, so you're the arbiter of God's will,
right.
And on the other side of it is, well, I've decided not to take it, and I don't think anybody should take it.
Right.
Well, that's illustrative of the human advice that, well, I'm now giving you what my perspective is on that, and there's something that I forgot, and I haven't urged you to do, which is, well, let's go to God.
Right.
And there's a step, that's missing when we ask so many people around us to give us their opinions. No. So the kind of person that you want is what I call a godly counselor that isn't going to tell you his opinion or her opinion, but rather, I'm going to go with you to God and express my understanding of what I'm hearing. I'll confirm with you. I'm going to ask you really good questions. Let's go to God together. Because, again, the process, and you and I know this, is, well, God's going to get us the answer. And he knows, and it's way, way better than ours. So why wouldn't you go do that? And when you get a little bit stuck or you need a little bit of help, and that's why I get phone calls, like this guy that he called me. He thought of me. He's in the middle of a couple of key decisions, has heard a little bit, but it's kind of fuzzy to him. So he called me. Hey, Rich, could you be one of my counselors? Right. Yeah, sure. Now, I don't know the answer. And that's the first piece of the godly counselor's perspective is, do you understand you don't know the answer yet? You just started the process.
Right.
So all I can do is say, okay, tell me about it. We'll talk more about this, what that looks like. I'm going to walk with you now. And I said that to him. I'm going to walk with you. God has an answer. He's going to ask you to receive it. I just sent him an email this morning. I said, as we process this, I said, you got to believe that God has the answer. He will give you clarity on that answer, and then your role will be to follow the instruction. And I'm going to help you do that and stay with you so that we have clarity, and then you understand the instruction, the step of obedience. I'm going to hold you accountable to that. If we both heard it and you confirm it, then I'm going to hold you accountable to that. Now, by the way, he can reject it.
Right.
And that's not my burden still, because I'm just the sheepdog, what I call the sheepdog counselor. Well, I'm just going to express what I hear God speaking, and my input is from God, not from this person. I'm going to involve myself with this person, but the answer is going to come from God.
And it's God's job to get that to him.
And he will. Yeah. And that's what we trust, so that the godly counselor you want, and that's why you would start with, is your spouse in that place where they want to go together, go to unity? Do you have an inner circle around you? And see, everybody, even if your spouse isn't on the same page or has a heart to go at the moment, then bring that inner circle. And everybody can absolutely 100% find an inner circle that has a heart. If I'm learning this, I can bring somebody else along to say, I'd like you to walk with me in it. I'm not asking you to give me your opinion. I'm asking you to help me walk into the answer. And they can find a small group. They can find an inner circle that serves that purpose, and just keep asking. And the cool thing is, this is really cool, since God knows you need it, he'll bring you people that have a heart to do it.
Right.
It's amazing. It's remarkable how it works, that you don't need to ever do this alone. and you never need to be stuck. And again, as we're expressing this on the podcast, that's one of the things we say. If you're stuck, and by the way, I've gotten I've gotten a few lately of people that email me. They happen to know me, so they use my private email. I'm stuck. I've got specific things. Okay, here's your assignment.
Right.
What is God saying? Write it all out. Go to these verses. Write it all out. What is God saying to you? And I'll process it with you, because I can be one of those counselors, because I have a heart to go, not because I know the answer.
Right.
And you can and you can use us. You can use Kathy and us if you have specific things. And let me just put it up to remind all of us is that you can send us a question on the YouTube comments, or you can email questions@afgministry.com, questions@afgministry.com. And you can, and this is what's happened, is I've got a few people already, and you've got people already in your small group. I have a specific thing that I need some assistance on.
Right.
And we're happy to serve you. And we got leaders all over the place that are happy to serve you. And there's no reason why anybody can't locate somebody to assist them as what we call a godly counselor.
Right.
And so we encourage you, to do that. And I know that you were actually telling me you're having some fun today on your small group. You and your group is serving in that role. Talk a little bit about that, how the beauty of the small group actually serves as that godly counselor.
It is the most, you guys have heard me brag on my ladies group on here before, but they truly are some of my most treasured friends over the years. And it's not that we get to spend all this other time doing all kinds of playful things and going on trips together or anything like that. It is that when we get together, it is such the iron sharpens iron environment. And the group of ladies that meets here on Tuesday mornings is just, it's a group who has a heart to hear God. And so when Rich is talking about, who are these counselors, people who want to abide, who are abiding, and who aren't looking for everybody to affirm what they want to hear, but are looking to hear what God wants to say.
Yeah.
And so we have that in this community. And even this morning I was saying we just had such a great, sweet time. It was a smaller group than normal, and there were just 3 of us here. And so we were able to really kind of get in the nitty-gritty a little bit today. And it was interesting, Rich, as we've been talking this past week, you shared even the story of Linda, when y'all were on your trip, how she was feeling, her joy was diminished, and you were immediately like, okay, that's an indicator. Let's go there. Well, that was actually where our group started today. Is just this talking about one of the ladies expressed it, and then we found this overwhelming thing going on. And really what I'm seeing right now, and I think you're witnessing it in a lot of places too. This is a little off topic, but I think it's worth going there. So what I'm seeing in this current environment right now is a spirit of oppression coming over a lot of people that are abiding Christians. And God is allowing us to see a lot. But then the enemy is coming in, and in the fact that we're seeing it, the enemy is twisting that and overwhelming us by what we see. And the tendency is for us to get focused on the storm rather than on Jesus. And the indicator that we've got that backwards is that joy is gone.
Yeah.
And so we had just a great conversation, really bringing each other back to God's truth, and reminding exactly what you said. I'm like, okay, as the one friend brought these things up, and she was describing just being overwhelmed by the number of things that are cluttering her mind. And I'm like, well, I'm going to pull a Rich case on you today and just ask you, how's your joy?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, this was joyful. This was joyful. I'm like, nope, not what I'm asking. Not did you have a joyful experience? How is your joy in abiding? Well, so you need people to ask you those honest questions.
Yeah.
And then to go there with you and, okay, let's get back. Let's see what the word has to say about this. And I was actually even able to share with her how Linda had done the 18 questions. And comically enough, God had led her that morning. She's like, I think I'm going to set up my journal where I have a space for a question and a space for an answer, instead of just leaving my question and then I keep writing,
Yeah.
So it was fun just to see, but in that place, my long way of saying that all, in that place where you have other people who truly, when we come together, it's, you lead out with God's word, not even your opinion on it. Where have you been this week? And let's share God's word. And then what is he speaking to you? And you can affirm and confirm and then add layers in with God, what God is speaking. There is such wisdom, such strength, such encouragement. And, for the three of us this morning, it was a great, come together and focus again. Let's remember, get our eyes strictly on Jesus and the joy of that and the joy of hearing and then see what it looks like as he answers each individual thing. And it was really a fun morning, even just starting that process in some of the things that both of the ladies are dealing with right now.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So just the very beginning of the process, and it was a joy already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's because you're in a small group that has a heart to do that. That's an ongoing thing. It's
yes.
You start to realize the community of godly counselors around you is really important, because that's a place that you can go discuss, openly share, and then say, would you walk with me into God's answer? And one of the things that we would do, and that happens, I know, in your small group, is that there's two things that are beautiful. One, the group itself, or the people around you itself, keep saying to you, you're going to get your answer.
Yes.
That's an encouragement, is that, okay, then I might be discouraged a little bit about that. I'm wondering about that. Things seem stalled out. I'm not getting clarity. Well, we're going to say, and people say to me, you'll get your answer. Well, that's an encouragement. Okay, now, secondly, is that because you're involved with other people, they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They're looking for answers and God's work and God's will. Well, we get to experience the fulfillment of that. That, hey, I got to see God had that guy call me.
Right.
Well, I'll share that, with my group, my small group. They'll be encouraged by, look at what God's doing. We know that you're going to get your answer, and that'll happen for me. I'm going to keep going too, because we actually experience God's supernatural work in the fulfillment of his will.
Right.
So that alone, that's one of the reasons why community is so critical, is that it really helps you stay encouraged. And because of the experience you all are going to experience, it just gives you great thrill and confidence and understanding. So there's never a point of what I would say envy or jealousy, or a thought, well, yeah, you're lucky.
Right.
Yeah, you're blessed by God. You're lucky, but I'm not. No, God shows all of us, and when we see it, we rejoice. So when that happens for somebody else, my heart is rejoicing. I'm not thinking, well, that was nice for you, or that was lucky for you, but I don't get it. No, I rejoice because I know something that's going to happen for me too. And it does.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing.
And so often, even in that same setting, where, we're talking about one friend's questions and we're going to God's word and we're seeking, okay, well, what does God say about this? And do you see this? And, we'll pick things apart and just really enjoy all of that. In the process, while we're looking at one thing, God is also speaking words of wisdom and answering questions for us truly from what each other is saying, simply because we all have the same Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And it never ceases to amaze me. I wouldn't miss a Tuesday morning to save my life. I mean, honestly, I just, we were talking this morning, a couple of friends that because of things that are going on are having to pull out for a season. And it breaks my heart, to be honest with you, because I see isolation as the enemy's playground.
Yes.
And when you remove yourself from that godly community, the ability for the enemy to pick you off is really high.
Yeah.
And so that's just something, I count on, whether things are good, bad, in between, or just, whatever. I want to be in the presence of other people who are chasing God.
Right.
the encouragement, the wisdom, the counsel, the affirmation, the things that God uses to speak through others who truly seek him that you didn't even know you needed to hear.
Right.
And sometimes you store that away and you pull it back out later in the week, and he was preparing you for something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we've talked about godly counselors, there's another type of counselor that is going to be important, and that's what I call a technical counselor. And that is that we're involved with something that is beyond us, that it's an area like a legal issue or a construction issue or an engineering issue or an accounting issue or an investment issue. And the truth is that me and Linda, or me and my inner circle, we don't have that technical knowledge.
Right.
So it's not a matter of guessing at it. It's God will say often, well, you need a technical expert to give you truth about this, because remember, God's will is given out of truth. So that, and as he does that, interesting enough, it actually doesn't even have to be a believer, because you're not asking him to be a godly counselor. You're asking him to be a technical counselor.
Right.
Give me
the expertise.
The expertise of what you know. So as I do that, and I've done that often, I go out and get the very, very best technical advisor that is experienced, knows the area, can help me quickly, and is what I call completely neutral. So that,
talk about that a little bit, because I think that's an important. I've heard you talk about the importance of a neutral technical expert.
So as
or whatever
you're bringing
expert.
somebody in to that process, you want somebody who, in a sense, I'm going to give you my technical input, and I don't care what you do with it, because
they don't have a vested interest.
I don't have
in
a
your
vested
response.
interest. I'm not trying to persuade you to go this way or that way. I'm just giving you information for the fork you're at in the road, and then you decide where you go. And it doesn't matter to me. By the way, you're going to pay me for that, which is what we do. Then I go out and pay somebody who's completely neutral, the very best at this thing that I need, or help people get, receive it, and through that, God will be speaking truth to show you. Okay, here's what it is. I'll give you an example. I had a guy who got involved with, and he had a situation with a minority investment, where the person who was running the business that he was a minority investment in was being dishonest, and he was what's called cooking the books. Well, as a minority position, there's not a lot of rights that you have. And in essence, you can't, because you don't control anything. And the other party who has control can really run the show. There's really not a whole lot you can do. So we prayed, and okay, Father, what do you have to say about this? And God says, I'm going to resolve this for you and have you get out of this investment. Okay. It's not obvious, because there's not a, oh yeah, by the way, go do this. And we said, okay, what do we do? And he told us, go get a technical advisor. So we go to an attorney and then a finance guy, and they're just experts at knowing the law, knowing what things can be done. And so we talked to them, and okay, what's the best legal way to do this? The guy says there isn't any. Sorry, but you don't have the opportunity to do this because you're in a minority position. Okay, so the finance guy, what do we do? He said, well, you have the right to call for what's called a forensic audit, and you can bring a new party in and go look at the books. Now, then we got the attorney back in. Okay, if we do that, what does that mean? Well, if you find stuff, you could sue him. You can go after him. And so, we talk to God, and God says, oh, I've already told you that. No, the answer is no. You're not going to go sue him. Should we pursue a forensic audit? Yes. He said, this guy because of it, and he doesn't want to reveal what he's doing, he'll offer to buy you out.
Oh, interesting.
So go down that path. Okay. So we do. We said we've hired this guy. He's coming in 4 weeks to do a forensic audit on the books, which, by the way, he has a right to do.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know any of this. The technical advisors are just telling us this is and they weren't necessarily believers. So it's just, here's the truth, here's the truth.
Right.
And we had already heard God say, put this on the table and you'll see this guy react. The guy reacts. You know what? I think it's time for me to buy you out. Okay, now we got another question. How much?
Right, right.
And God said to this guy and to me, I don't want you to even think about that. What I have this guy offer you, accept it. Get it done.
Interesting.
And whatever you think you could have gotten more, I'll make it up to you in a different way. He said, what do you want? And we're having this conversation with God together. And he says, I want this resolved. And God says, I'm resolving it. Don't say, yeah, but I want it resolved and I want more money. No, what do you really care about is getting this resolved.
Right.
I'll make it up to you later. I'm getting you out of something that would have been really, really messy. And by the way you were going, you were just going to leave it there and nothing happened to it anyway. Okay, so we did. Okay, we go to the guy. Yes, we'd be willing to do that. Why don't you put something on the table? Put something on the table that actually was reasonable. It wasn't great, but it was reasonable. And the guy had heard God say, accept that. Okay, he accepted it. Got his money, got out of it, got his money out, and he didn't care or pursue. Well, yeah, but the guy's not right. What he's doing isn't right, and he should be punished and all. And God says, do you remember what I've shown you? Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Don't worry.
Right.
This dishonest person is going to have his own trouble.
Right.
I'm getting you out of this because you're not yoked properly, and this is a problem. And see, light can't be with dark. And we went into that whole discussion about why was he doing this, and what's the purpose behind it, and why is the resolution so critical, and not worry about the money. Well, because light can't be with dark. I'll fix it later. So the impact of all that was that we were involved in a very tricky area, and we needed experts. And interesting enough, when we interviewed the experts, I said to them, when we interview them, we're going to describe the situation. The expert that we're going to know is God's choice will be a guy that says, I've done this before. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'll be able to help you do this. If they say, well, I'll go research it for you.
That's not him.
He's not an expert. So we processed it. Then we heard these two guys say this. Then we did reference checking. God confirmed it. The guys were the guys, and they even the lawyers said, well, you could sue them, but based on what you're saying, yeah, I think your approach is really the right way, and yeah, don't worry about it, and so it's a beautiful thing of expertise that God will often ask us. Now, we paid for that,
right?
They're ours, they're true. What's your truth? And they didn't care what our outcome was. They were neutral. You said they didn't have a vested interest. So that as you look at bringing advisors around you, it's bring godly counselors. They're going to walk with you to seek God. When you need a technical advisor, because you happen to be into a new arena that is beyond us. Now, I don't know how that works. Go get a technical advisor. And don't be afraid of him. By the way, get the best one you can. Pay him the money. Hourly or whatever you do, to say, would you do this for me? Give me a report, give me your truth, and then I'll let God show me what to do with that next. You don't have to tell me what to do, just give me the information. And it's a beautiful way of life. And God says, in counselors there's safety. In counselors you'll get victory. In counselors you get instruction. And so the key is, don't be afraid of it.
Don't be afraid of it. And I think there is also a level of, when it says accept instruction, that implies humility too.
Yes.
You have to be willing to realize you don't know it all.
Yeah. That's a really good point, because the beginning of that is, well, I'm willing to receive this counselor's input, because God's going to lead me to truth, because I'm not going to pretend I should know it or that I even know it. And that takes humility. And the issue is, well, why wouldn't you do that?
Right. Absolutely.
What do you care? You care about the answer, not about that I have to prove that I'm the good guy or I'm the perfect guy. What do you care? What I want is the answer. So as we finish, today is we've really discussed and gone into depth here about counselors, described what they look like and what the importance of it is, and of community. Have people around you. Never be afraid to go further with, well, let me see if there's somebody else that could assist me, not with giving me their opinion, either technical truth or somebody who's going to walk with me into seeking God's will. And God says, I'm going to use that to get you your answer. And so I always say, well, why would I not do that? It's kind of fun.
Absolutely. So, it's a blessing, right?
So we'll pick it up, and we'll talk a little bit more about the process tomorrow on Tuesday of how does that work as we sort that truth out and that understanding out. So we'll spend time doing that tomorrow.
Great. Sounds good. As always, it's been a pleasure. If you have found today encouraging and learned from it, we just ask you, be a friend, tell a friend, and pass this on. We are excited to just continue the journey with you guys and to exalt God and just let him lead us.
Amen to that. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, Kathy.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.